Doom Whisperer. So a lot of different ways to build Dimir, but Tim Suratani's is more based on the powerful creatures like Thief of Sanity, Hostage Taker, and Doom Whisperer.
Oh, Thief of Sanity is so good left unchecked. Down in the feature match area. Put your phone away, Tim. It's time to play. Both of our players here starting off undefeated in the tournament. And here we go. Sky Marcher Aspirant for William Holtzman on turn 1. Probably your best play for the Boros aggro deck here that he has brought. In for 2. Tim down to 18.
Now I can tell you that the cost of Tim playing with these creatures like Thief of Sanity is that he does not have that many board sweepers.
Oh, I see.
Actually, correct that. He does have 3 in his main deck, which is reasonably healthy number, but I do think he's going to really need to have those at the right time if he's going to compete with Holtzman's super aggressive white-red deck. So we'll see if he can find his 1 copy of Golden Demise or either of his 2 copies of Ritual of Soot. Otherwise, I think it's going to be hard for him to keep pace.
History of Benalia here on turn 3 for William Holtzman, who's had just a great first few turns here with that Sky Marcher Aspirant, Vampire, Lifelinker, and now a Knight. Cast down here to take care of the Knight token, end of turn. Back over to Tim. Who is already under quite a bit of pressure. Although we're not going to be able to flip into Adonto the First for it quite yet. Disinformation campaign.
So this is a nice sort of engine card for Dimir, generating lots of card advantage, though the mana cost is large and it doesn't impact the board, but you can sort of clean out your opponent's hand while making sure that you don't flood and continue making your land drops and finding action.
Pride of Conquerors was the discard there for William. Chapter 2 takes up on History of Benalia. We're going to make another Knight.
When we were practicing with Dimir, we talked about the main win condition just being discouragement. you just
so
sort
true.
of make your opponent not want to play anymore, and it doesn't really matter if you have the Doom Whisperer or the Dream Eater or whatever it might be. They're eventually just going to have no cards in their hand with Disinformation and Campaign, and you're going to be stealing their stuff with Thief of Sanity and Eldest Reborn.
Yeah.
And you're just going to be like, all right, enough.
All right, I give up. This is just too... Hostage Taker here is going to take a Knight hostage, and therefore...
Yeah, Hostage Taker really nice against History of Benalia, effectively just answering the card 1 for 1 because, you know, the token's never going to come back even if the Hostage Taker leaves play, and you have a 2/3 body, which matches up well against a lot of the creatures in these white decks.
History of Benalia, Chapter 3 triggers here for William.
And you can tell Tim really going out of his way to make sure William cannot amass those 3 creatures necessary to transform Legion's Landing.
Another History of Benalia. I love those Knights just flying in from the side. Conclave Tribunal here. All right, that's pretty clutch, dealing with the Hostage Taker. Convoking it out. That's the great thing about playing Conclave Tribunal over something like Ixalan's Binding.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the Convoke in these white decks, being able to multi-spell, using Vigilance creatures to both attack and Convoke something in the same turn. But we'll see if William regrets using the Conclave Tribunal if he can't answer this Doom Whisperer.
Okay, Chapter 2 on History of Benalia. Like you said, Doom Whisperer hitting the table for Tim this turn. And Doom Whisperer just feels bad no matter what, even if you manage to kill it with the Tribunal or take care of it with the Tribunal because of the surveillability.
Crucially, he does have the second Conclave Tribunal,
Wow.
so this is going to unlock a big attack, allow him to transform the Legion's Landing, drop Tim's life total pretty low, and now I think it's going to be hard for the Dimir player to come back. If he had been able to hold off the aggression with this 6/6 Doom Whisperer, he was in a commanding spot. But now I think it's Holtzman's game to win or lose.
The saddest dive down in hand for Tim, too. Deciding here whether or not he wants to surveil. And he does. Thief of Sanity in a land.
So these are pretty crucial points of life. Tim can't do this recklessly, but he might be thinking, well, I need to have a board sweeper next turn if I'm going to stay in the game, so I would rather go low on life and give myself the most chances to find Ritual of Soot or Golden Demise, which I have to say I like the logic.
Yeah. Not quite sure what they're talking about down there.
I suppose just clarifying the stack, because we do have multiple triggers here. We have Conclave Tribunal, we have Disinformation Campaign.
Oh,
Tim's
right.
thinking about how much to surveil.
Yeah, he paid another 2 down to 8.
That's Detection Tower hitting the graveyard. Presumably this Dimir deck has a hard time against Carnage Tyrant.
Wow, down to 6, another surveil. He cannot find that Ritual of Soot, and he has to just say, all right, that's enough.
Looks like he forgot to return Disinformation Campaign. Not that that's a crucial element of this game in any way, but...
All right, so Adonto the First Fort's going to come into play after this attack here. It's going to leave Tim at 1. All right, he's
if I was involved in this game, I would have challenged that, but you know, the players can navigate it however they want, and like I said, it's unlikely to change the outcome of the game.
All right, so we're going to Discovery here. We've got 4 mana left. Can we find something? We cannot. Draws, and it's just a Thief of Sanity. And like you said, that Thief of Sanity really taking a few important spots. It's a great card, an early threat that must be dealt with, but at the same time, you are sacrificing something.
Right, yeah. The crucial point in that game was whether or not the Doom Whisperer could successfully stabilize the board for the Dimir player. I think if Holtzman had not had the second Conclave Tribunal, the game would have been very different. But then again, if he had not had the second Tribunal, he probably would have been more conservative in his use of the first one. So
true.
The key point there being just that Tim had to cross his fingers and hope that his Doom Whisperer survived. But the Boros player came prepared.
All right, so William Holtzman taking down game number 1. Here we are in game number 2. And a Fungal Infection early on that Sky Marcher Aspirin is pretty good for Tim Suirani.
Yeah, that's a really sweet card against these white decks because they play so many 1-toughness creatures, and sometimes you can navigate to a spot where, yeah, you're killing something as powerful as a Danto Vanguard, then you have a 1/1 token that's either trading with a different creature or holding off some attackers. Even a chump block means that you have a 1-mana card that kills a creature and effectively buys you some life, so just exactly what you want to keep pace with these aggressive white decks.
Thought Erasure here from Tim. What is he going to choose? A Danto Vanguard. Get out of here. I love a Danto Vanguard so much.
Oh, it's so good. It's one of those cards, sometimes you encounter a dynamic in these sort of smaller card pool formats where the aggressive decks have one super powerful or cheap creature where they just perform so much better if it's in their opening hand. And a Danto Vanguard, I think, is that one for these white decks because a deck like Dimir, you know, like Jeskai Control, these slower reactive decks just have such a hard time both eliminating an indestructible creature and pressuring the opponent's life total that you really just get to have it all with the Adanto Vanguard.
It's really great feeling of safety, too. This is coming from somebody who plays Boggles, right? To be able to just play this card and not have to worry about every removal spell in the world being able to hit it.
Absolutely, and just like with Boggles, it protects you from getting blown out, right?
Right.
Like if you play out all your creatures and your opponent has Deafening Clarion, you're out of luck. But if even one of those creatures is an Adanto Vanguard, you get to save something on the board, deploy another threat next turn, and instead of being completely decimated, you're actually doing fine.
History of Benalia for William here. And Thief of Sanity swings on in for 2, and critically, we're going to take a look at the top of William's deck here.
Yeah, so this is the situation that the Dimir players are going for, which is connecting with Thief of Sanity. This card is super powerful, generating card advantage and giving you access to weapons that you might otherwise not have access to. Here you see him choosing between the super powerful Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants, or a Hunted Witness, which will allow him to double spell and just stabilize the ground a little bit better. So you see the flexibility here being really, really powerful depending on the context of Tim's hand.
What do you take?
Well, it looks like he is short on lands, so that's going to make me inclined to just take the cheaper card. And that's what he's going to do.
All right, so Hunted Witness underneath the Thief of Sanity. If I'm William, I'm like, what did he take? But it makes a lot of sense, like you said, stabilizing the board, enabling to cast a couple of spells a turn if he wants to. I believe he's got a cast down in hand here. History of Benalia, Chapter 2. Another knight on the table for William. And that little fungus and that Hunted Witness are doing their job for Tim.
Yeah, most definitely. It's not that they're the biggest creatures on the battlefield, but, well, Tim has some nice removal spells and he has the Thief of Sanity chipping away. He really just needs stumbling blocks to make sure that he can survive. And both the Fungal Infection and the Hunted Witness are doing a great job of that.
The Boros Challenger isn't a card that we see in a lot of the Boros or red-white or mostly white aggressive decks. The 4 mana to be able to pump it is pretty expensive.
Right, and a lot of the white decks are based primarily on the color white. So this is one of the rewards of William Holtzman going a little bit deeper into red, as he gets to upgrade his 2-drop into Boros Challenger, which, while not, an amazing card, it is pretty nice. It's a mana sink. It can mentor onto the 1/1 creatures.
All right, so we attack in with one of our knights here. It's going to trade off with the Saproling and the Hunted Witness there.
Ooh, pretty ugly trade if you're William Holtzman.
Yeah, I agree.
Losing one of your knights before Chapter 3 comes off. Suratani's going to get a 1/1 lifelink out of the exchange.
There's that Goblin Instigator that we talked about at the top of the match, which kind of sets this list apart from, like you said, the mainly white lists. Put the Goblin Instigator in that Divine Intervention deck. Yeah. Divine Visitation, excuse me.
2 mana for a 1/1 and a 4/4 is a lot more impressive than a couple of 1/1s.
And I was just going to say, tell me why this card is in the deck, and here's one of those reasons, helping to convoke out your Conclave Tribunal.
Yeah, in essence, this is just a tokens deck. It puts itself in amazing position to use heroic reinforcements. Also, stuff like Pride of Conquerors. You just really spill as many creatures onto the battlefield as quickly as possible, and then when you have those knockout punch cards like that, you're really heavily rewarded for it.
Here's Blood Operative from Tim, 3/1 lifelinker. When you surveil, you can pay 3 life to bring it back from the graveyard to your hand.
Right, so not a card that I would really think of as being for this matchup, but it is going to be nice. I mean, getting to trade and lifelink a bit for your troubles is very powerful, and then as the game drags on, we know that so many of Suratani's cards have surveil that if he has enough life to play with, he can continue trading this card off over and over again.
Okay, so here we see an attack from William with the whole team. Pump on the Boros Challenger. A mentor from the Challenger getting onto the 1/1 Goblin Creature token. Trade off for the lifelink creature, but here we're going to gain some life back for Tim. thought erasure here, but William is out of cards. Found another land.
I'm actually a bit surprised that Tim would be trading blows with the Blood Operative. I would think that you would want to just trade off with your opponent's creature and then have the ability to rebuy the Operative. Granted, Erase is going to favor the lifelink creature, but I just don't think you want to engage in Erase in the first place against Boros aggro.
We're entering the turns here where Dimir mid-range really needs to start kind of turning the tables here on the Boros aggressive deck. Laying down a threat of its own.
And Holtzman actually going to pump the brakes and leave his creature back to block Blood Operative. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
Like I said, it makes sense at face value. Just you don't want to trade blows with a lifelink creature. But if I'm Holtzman, I'm thinking I got to get this game done, or else I'm going to lose. I got to keep attacking and hope the top of my deck delivers something, because this is going to be a really, really bad exchange for him.
Moment of craving too here from Tim will gain him some more life on top of the life from the Blood Operative. He's back up to 14. William at 11. Sky Marcher Aspirant here.
Just enough for the City's Blessing.
All right, Holtzman hashtag blessed, getting in for 2 here with the Goblin, tying things up at 11 life apiece.
Jeez, and Tim has been holding Doom Whisperer the whole game, just unable to find the 5th land. He even surveilled a non-land card. I believe it was the Moment of Craving to the top.
Oh.
But you got to think if the Doom Whisperer hits the battlefield and goes unanswered, that's going to be lights out.
Okay, so if Vraska's Contempt, able to deal with the Goblin creature token, and a hostage taker here takes that Sky Marcher Aspirant hostage, but a Conclave Tribunal says, we find you guilty. Aspirant back over to William's side of the battlefield, but boom, there it is. Doom Whisper for Tim, that 6/6 demon on the table.
Well, careful with your life total. You want to worry about heroic reinforcements off the top in this stage of the game.
Yeah, Tim does a surveil there, down to 8, and swings in for 6.
And you'll see, along the lines of being careful with life total, you're going to see him surveil and not rebuy the Blood Operative.
Yeah. He's able to find a Golden Demise, which is really critical for him here. So Hunted Witness is going to leave behind a 1/1 lifelinker. And okay, so they got to scoop him up there. That's Tim taking down game number 2. And our pairings are going up for round number 3 here, so we're going to let you know what happened in that game. Tim did take it down 2-1. So well done for the Dimir player there. And yeah, we'll be right back here with more Magic in just a minute. Don't go anywhere.